I'm Nate Eaton here with the new superintendent for Idaho Falls School District 91, Dr. Jim Shank. James Shank is your official name, but you have been on the job for how long now?
Well, I started July 1st officially, but came into the office on July 6th, so just a handful of days.
Okay, a handful of days, and he's spending some time with us. So we're going to talk about some of the issues that the district is facing. And before we get into that, though, tell me about your background. You have an extensive background in education.
Oh, sure. Yeah, my teaching started as a special education teacher down in Alpine School District in Utah. Then I came up to Idaho Falls in 1995 to be the assistant principal at Taylorview Junior High. So then I worked for the district here for about 15 years and then left in 2010 to go be a superintendent down in Utah. Then I went out to Washington State for a while, and then I've come back to Idaho and right back where I started in Idaho Falls, so very happy to be here.
And I'm sure it has changed quite a bit since you were here before.
Yeah, lots of good things and growth have happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
You also founded some online schools?
I have, yeah. In fact, in the school district down in Utah, JUAB School District, we opened up an online school in 2011 called Wolves Online, and then I replicated that out in Washington State, and that one's called WASP Online. Actually, I got that wrong. It's the other way around. It's WASP Online in Utah and Wolves Online in Washington State in Coopville. Then because of COVID, we opened up the Mini Kaja Online Academy down there in Burley. So yeah, had this opportunity to do that a few times.
Wow. And when you're not working, father of 6 kids?
That's correct.
Any left at home?
Our last left the home in December. So yeah. Couple of them born right here in Idaho Falls.
Great. Well, welcome home. There's a lot happening in the district, as you know, and I want to talk about a few of the issues. I think the main one of the major ones is, of course, growth. Idaho is growing. Idaho Falls is growing. We see that in the housing market. We see that in the economy. And that means the school district is growing. Your overall thoughts here at the beginning of your tenure, how do you address overcrowding in the schools and the growth?
Yeah, that growth factor is very, very important. So in my experience, oftentimes you'll see a lot of housing growth, but it's all about how many kids are in those homes. And so you take a look at that very carefully and make sure that you're estimating and projecting correctly of where it is that those students will need to go to school. And then you make decisions, and some of those decisions are harder than others. It could be possibly a boundary change. There might need to be that. And then, of course, if a new school needs to get built, we discuss that with the community and ask them lots of questions. And if we're ready to go out to bond and build a new school, then that's what it is that we do. But there's lots of things that we need to do before we bond, and that's make sure that our locations where we already have schools are functioning in the way that it's expected. So. But it's very, very important to make sure that we have the kids in the areas that are necessary. Unfortunately, I think people are having fewer and fewer children in their homes for whatever reason. And so we don't have those, those factors of maybe a 4-person home. There might be only 2 people in that home. So.
The bonding leads into my next question about the high school. The high school has tried for a bond, I believe, 2 times, and it's failed. And that was several years ago. There hasn't been any discussion of it, recently. What are your plans for the old Idaho Falls High School, the current Idaho Falls High School, I should say?
Yeah, great question. And just 10 minutes before coming here, I had asked the Build Up D91 group to form and have a meeting with me to discuss the past history of the bonding efforts and what it is that they felt that was needed. And so that's a great question, and the needs still exist in terms of the high school facility problems that we have, and so there's going to be some things that need to be accomplished. The issue with that is we're going to have to do it together. We're going to have to create some unity and make sure that people are all on the same page on what it is that needs to be done with Idaho Falls High School and also Skyline. And so I think your viewers with this will be interested to know that that's a question that with facilities in general that we'll be asking at the next board meeting next week. So we'll be talking about these things again. But the question of timing has to be part of that discussion because that's so important. We need to make sure that things are right and correct. and that we have what it is that's wanted and that needs to be designed and looked for towards again.
Yeah, so that'll be discussed next week at the board meeting, and that's obviously a decision that is not solely on you. You have
Not
the
at
school
all.
board that decides, and there's that. Is there anything right now, right when you're here, that you see says immediately needs to be fixed, or we need to change something that right away, like that's your priority number one?
Oh, fixed-wise, facility-wise, or
Just
in
overall,
general?
overall.
Well, you come in as a new superintendent, and I don't know that if you look at things that have to be fixed. I think you look at it in terms of what is it that we can do together to unite around our purpose. And if you think about why we come together as a school district and we ask our parents and our kids to bring their kids to school, it's all about learning. That's our focus, that's why we exist. And so those elements of learning that not only are in the classroom but also outside of the classroom, and how it is that we unite around that purpose and then develop the things that are necessary for us to become better in what we do. You'll hear a lot more about in the coming future this idea of high reliability schools and that context around what it means to be a high reliability school system. And so that's some of the work that we'll do together and trying to get each of our schools to grow into those levels 1 through 5. There's more to be said about that, and I look forward to talking about it. But one of the things that you'll see me do here in the next month or two is I'll start a state of the district type of discussion that goes around town. And anybody that's willing to listen to me, we'll talk about where we're at and where it is that we need to be and how we're going to get there. Another thing that I'll plan to do so that people can expect and plan for is we're going to start doing Facebook Live. So the first one will be on July 30th. We have a banner on our website already that people can go and access and take a look at that. So looking forward to engaging with our people in that social media platform.
And is that something where if they ask a question in the comments, you might answer back and forth?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. There was some discussion before the students came back after COVID. Fridays were a learn at home day, and there was some discussion about keeping Fridays as a learn at home day for STEM purposes. And that ultimately didn't happen. The students went back 5 days a week. How do you plan to prepare these students for the ever-changing market where more and more seems to be focused on science, technology, engineering, math, those STEM core issues?
Exactly. We look to innovation in all of those STEM issues as well as career technical education. So really it's about not only getting kids the basics and that they're doing well in the basics, but to provide additional opportunities for them to be able to engage. So we look at what it is that we're doing now. And we've got some great things going on in the district with Compass Academy and other CTE type programs, but perhaps there's more that we can do. And so we'll take a good look and see how many kids are engaged, how many want to be engaged in those sorts of things, and we'll make greater opportunities.
What are your views on charter schools?
Charter schools? Well, there's obviously parents want to have choice. And so my views on that are certainly we want to create opportunities for people to be able to engage and have choice. So charter schools, I look at if it's something that fills a need for parents that they want, then certainly we can work together. When I was down in Utah as a superintendent there, I think at the time when I left, we had 118 charter schools in the state. Wow. There are a lot more there now. In my work in Washington State, there were a lot of private schools, not necessarily charter schools, but private schools. And so I'm not unused to working with charter school administrators, teachers, and these sorts of things, because we're all in the business of educating kids, and learning is what we all want to have happen. So that's kind of our ethos, if you will.
2 months ago, there was a horrible shooting at a school in Rigby.
Yes.
And so many people said, we never thought this would happen here, as that happens in every time there's a school shooting, unfortunately. And I think that safety and security was immediately brought back to the top of the mind of so many parents and administrators and teachers. What is the district doing, and what can the district do to hopefully prevent something like this from happening in Idaho Falls?
Yeah, very good. Great question. And it's certainly of concern, especially when it happens so close to you. What we know about intruders and school shootings is that when teachers and students and people that are visiting the school are behind a locked door, usually they're safe. And so those are some things that we look at in our safety plans. How is it that we can get students and people behind locked doors quickly and then get response? We want schools to look like they're still welcoming. We don't want them to be these, I guess, terribly hardened facilities where it looks like you're going in and out of some sort of lockdown type of thing all the time. But those types of measures sometimes need to be taken. So we balance that out with the culture and what's wanted. Fortunately in Idaho, we've had very, very few these types of incidences, but they do happen in other places. There are lots of things to be learned. In Florida, for instance, in Washington State, there have been shootings out in those and others. And so we take those learnings that they've had there and try to build a response around what it is that's most effective. And I think actually what happened out in Rigby, it's a tragic situation, but the response was very, very good.
Last year, it seemed school board meetings across the country, there was a level of angst and divisiveness, and a lot of those meetings went viral. And there were a few moments in the Idaho Falls School Board meeting where there was, some argument, of course, COVID being the issue. How do you plan going into a new year, fresh start with you, to maybe, is there a way that you can maybe bring the school board and the parents a little bit more united?
Sure, great question. COVID was hard on everybody. There's no question. There were lots of people out there trying to figure out what was going on from day to day. And so if you hadn't experienced some things like that in the past, it might have been a challenging moment. And we saw that across the country. And my position forward is we have to talk about and unite around why it is that we go to school, which is learning and growth. And so my hope is that in those types of discussions moving forward, that we're able to talk about children, talk about why it is that we're coming together, why it is that boards, they volunteer to come in to help and govern the school districts, and those goals and things that we want to have to become better, and unite around that, and trying to help students progress and grow rather than this particular crisis with COVID that was caused by, just a lot. I mean, those issues, the frustrations where not a lot of people knew exactly what to do. And all of that changing and shifting and trying to, well, what's the best model? What is it that we should do? Should we do hybrid? Should we not? Should we go to a 4-day school week? Should we not? Those are hard things, especially when you're a board that, we need people to help us with these things, but there isn't necessarily always a tremendous amount of expertise on what it is that needs to be done. If you speak with most superintendents across the country, you would find out that we were trying to do the right things, but never having seen this before in our careers.
I think a lot of parents, maybe for the first time, became involved in watching the meetings or listening to them, and they felt that they weren't heard. Whatever side of the issue you were on, they felt they weren't being heard. What's your message to them, to that parent that thinks, well, they don't listen to me anyway, they make the decisions without me?
Yeah, well, in terms of they, and I hate to go back before I was here to try to respond to anything that's prior to July 1, that's very difficult for me to do. But moving forward, I think that the message that I'd like to send to people is that we're going to listen. In terms of, I'm working on engagement. Engagement's a big goal that I have, to get out and talk to people like you today, and as many people that we can. That's part of the State of the District addresses that you'll see. And so there'll be many opportunities for people to be able to express themselves. And of course, I always feel like a better informed public, a better informed, knowledgeable about how schools function is better for everyone. Better for them, better for us, and that's a lot of the efforts that you'll see that I'll try to do.
And one of the things that was announced, sorry, going back to before when you were here, as far as the meetings, many of you asked why the meetings, you could watch them live, but then you couldn't go back and watch them. Well, the district will have them on their website for 30 days after the fact, so you can watch them. And then after that, if you want to watch them, you can make a records request and you can get that video. So that is a change that I think many will welcome. If you can't make it to the meeting that night, you can watch it later in the day or whenever. So that'll go into effect.
Correct, yeah. We have plans to do that.
All right, so what do you want people to know about Dr. James Shank?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think one of the things that people need to realize is that what drives me is learning. We want students to be able to succeed, to have high levels of learning, and that's all students. And so I'm talking about all, and I really mean all, that students should have that ability to be engaged. I would like people to know that our work together will be one that they can feel like that there's a collaboration, that we're working together as a team in order to bring the best possible educational program to the district. My experience with Idaho Falls School District when I worked here before was we were a dynamic, energetic, engaging system where it is that students could receive a very high quality education. There's been a lot of innovations, Compass Academy for instance, and that project-based high school. Some great things are occurring over there. The STEM elementary school at Taylorview, all these types of things. And we really want students to dream big and think about what it is that they want to be able to engage in. And then we help prepare and make sure that kids can make choices after high school, that they can have confidence that they know what it is that they may want to do, and if they don't necessarily have that all figured out, that they have the skills in the background to be able to seek after other things as well.
Dr. Shank, thanks so much.
Well, thank you.